Hi everyone. Sorry to interrupt that music. I feel really bad with breaking in like that. Welcome everyone. My name's Livy. Thank you so much for joining us. I work at a gallery in London called Autograph, and it's my absolute pleasure to be hosting this event today with Chloe and Nikita. So this event was programmed as part of an annual open call, inviting practitioners who don't have a physical space of their own or who maybe newly emerging to produce a new event with support and funding from Autograph. Just a very quick housekeeping note before I hand over. So we'll be sharing a few documents throughout the event today, and we'll link to those in the chat box. So please do use those, and please feel free to chat with us in the box, share your thoughts, respond to what's happening in the conversation. We'd really like to hear from you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chloe and Nikita, who proposed today's events, and they'll be facilitating the conversation. So Chloe Lobos and Nikita Sena are friends who dream of creating a transnational collective of artists, activists and healers to support each other in creating alternative futures rooted in sustainability in all its forms. They believe there is immense power and wisdom in transnational solidarity that can strengthen local socio-environmental justice work. Chloe currently finds herself in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where she calls home, and she helps coordinate a network of favela-based socio-environmental justice projects. Nikita is a British Ghanaian intersectional feminist with a background in human rights and a love for music, literature, film, and dance. So over to you both.
Thank you, Livy. Just 1 second, I saw that someone put in the chat that they're having trouble hearing. I wanted to make sure if anyone else is having trouble hearing to let us know. Just to see if it's a general issue or it might be a connection issue. But if no one else writes in the chat, we'll just keep going and then we'll see, Ellen, if we can help you out with that, yeah? Okay. Wow, okay, here's good, cool. I'm so happy to be here and so excited to be sharing this space with you all, especially Nandini, Elsie, and Anthem, 3 incredible artists and people who have very different backgrounds, are using different mediums, are talking about diverse issues where they're each from. And something interesting is actually they haven't actually met before. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation that's gonna bring up kind of like new ideas and dialogue around how to connect, even coming from very different countries and cultures and places, how that transnational connection can actually strengthen local and grassroots action, right? It's kind of the point of this event. And I'm also really happy to be connecting with everyone who's participating. I know that the webinar format of this event makes it so we can't see each other, but I do feel really connected to all of you, and I hope that you all feel connected and in community. People are coming from a bunch of different countries, different time zones. Some people have woken up early for this, which is great. So I hope that you all feel connected and that we're here in this space that like values art and honors art as kind of an essential to not only imagine but create the world that we want to live in, right? So I'm really happy about that, and I hope that wherever people are, you know, get comfortable. If you need to get water, juice, if you want to, you know, stretch a little bit, take a deep breath if that feels good. We hope that you get comfortable where you are. And actually Nikita, my wonderful friend, is gonna be grounding us with a little bit of words before we introduce the artists and get into people's presentations. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chloe and Livy, for such a warm introduction. I told myself I'd play it cool, but I am so excited to get into this conversation and to see where it takes us. Before we do, I just want to provide us with some grounding and set some intentions for this space by reading an extract from Audre Lorde's essay, The Transformation of Silence. It's an essay I feel personally that I have to come back to again and again, and in many ways it influenced the creation of this event. And so, what are the words you do not yet have? What do you need to say? What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own until you will sicken and die of them, still in silence? Perhaps for some of you here today, I am the face of one of your fears. Because I am woman, because I am Black, because I am lesbian, because I am myself, a Black woman warrior poet doing my work, come to ask you, are you doing yours? So we feel that this extract really resonates with the themes of this conversation and also speaks to how we hope everyone who's watching engages with this event as well. We really want you to feel comfortable in sharing your thoughts, your experiences, like your questions and reactions, and know that like you're in a space where we care about hearing what you have to say. So following that, I'll pass it on to Chloe to share some notes on accessibility.
Thanks. Oh, hey, Elsie. You wanted to say something? You're good? Cool. You're back. Great. Yeah, so before we get started, just wanted to say a few notes on accessibility of this event. Livy just shared in the chat a link that people can use to have live transcription, live captioning for today's event. And the recording of this will be available on Autograph's website afterwards with captioning. For people to see later. We also just want to acknowledge that we don't have translation in other languages. There will be other languages other than English used today, but it will be mainly English. And so we understand the limitations of that and are thinking of ways to create more like multilingual spaces for the future. So we're experimenting on that for the future. And we're going to be talking more throughout today of how to stay connected, because we hope that beyond this event, we can continue connecting with each other and learning from each other. So the way that today is going to go down, we're going to have some presentations from Anthem, Nandini, and Elsie to start us off. They're going to be showing us some of their different work. And then we're going to have a brief 3-minute break for people to kind of, go to the bathroom, do what you have to do. And then when we come back, we're going to have the rest of the time to be able to really engage in deeper dialogue. We're going to have a Q&A. So artists will engage with your questions, with your comments, and they'll be asking questions to each other. So it'll be a really open space for people to continue engaging in the dialogue. So please, we want you all to use the chat in whatever way you want, really. Take ownership of it. You can put your questions, you can put comments, ideas. If you want to share resources, if you want to, you're working on a project that you want to share with others that's relevant, feel free to share that. If you want to put emojis, claps, whatever, enjoy. We understand that there's limitations of this webinar and it only being the chat, but now that we do have the chat, let's, engage fully in it. And so we invite you throughout the entire event to ask whatever questions you want. And if anyone's having any issues, technical issues, also please let us know, and we're going to do our best to deal with that. So let's get to the artists. We're going to start with Anthem. Anthem, can you hear us? Yes. So Anthem Republiq is a spoken word artist. He's a rapper, he's an actor, an environmentalist, a community leader. He's actually co-founder of Sana Center, which is a center for creatives in Mathare, where he's from. Mathare is the second largest informal settlement in Nairobi in Kenya. So go ahead, Anthem. We can't hear you right now. Can you try maybe getting closer to your phone? We can't hear you right now, but I know we'll get there because we heard you earlier. We can just give Anthem a few minutes, and if not, we can change the order a little bit as he figures it out. We still can't hear you, Anthem. Do you want to take a moment? We can pass on to Nandini, and then if you're able to get your audio back, then you can present after Nandini, if that's okay. Yeah, Nikita, do you wanna introduce?
Yeah, of course. The perils of doing stuff like this over the internet, but we move, we continue. So I'm really excited to introduce our next presenter. Nandini Moitra is a trans non-binary artist living and residing in Kolkata, India. They are the founder and co-director of Amra Adbut, a trans and queer art space in the city. Their work explores queer politics through mythology, stories, and food.
Thank you, Nikita, for that introduction. So when Cleo and Nikita mailed me, initially the question which was there was dhiiga, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it properly, dhiiga, kuma, dhaqaaqo, does your blood not move? So this is a question which right now is extremely relevant in our context, because we are, like I live in India, in Kolkata, we are basically in the midst of a fascist government which is passing on laws which are extremely harmful to minorities. So recently the Farm Bill is extremely, its aim is to privatize all farming land, and over the years they have passed all these bills which are extremely harmful to minorities, which include the trans bill, which basically talks about screening committees for trans people. So as artists, what we saw last year during the CA protest was there were so many artists throughout the country who were protesting what was happening. And as queer people, there is always a marginalization, but there are other intersectionalities of these marginalization, especially in our context when it comes to caste, class, and religion. So this present government is really trying to silence the voice of the minorities. So as a queer South Asian artist, so initially, I began my journey as an artist. Like I went to art school for a year or so, and so basically, India is a colonized country, right? So even the way art is taught is colonial, because the government art college here was literally built by the British to teach Indians how to draw maps. So so even now, these colleges still follow these same colonial ideas of art. So I left after a year. So how do we imagine being an artist outside the colonial mold, outside this? So it's very much, if you look at the art world, it's centered around whiteness. It's centered around like toxic masculinity. So how do you get out of it? So as a queer artist, like a few of us, me, Upasna, Raina, we started Amradbhut to build a space where queer artists could be themselves and could present their work without any scrutiny from outside, where the cis heteronormative world did not question our art, did not uh, try to devalue it. So this was the reason we started building the space. So as also outside the Amradbhut space, I basically, like over the years, I've worked mostly as an illustrator, but also as an artist. I'm extremely influenced by science fiction and fantasy, especially science fiction and fantasy by people of color. So my work is influenced by them. Initially, Nikita started by quoting Audre Lorde and James Baldwin. So obviously, all these folks are my influences. And I draw queer folks in their homes being themselves. Livy, could you share the pictures? Livy? Yeah. So being themselves and thriving in their own space and building their space beautifully. Because if we look at narratives of queer people, which is not by queer people, there's almost like a trauma porn thing happening, where our stories of thriving, our stories of happiness never get told. So, and also, like, I am extremely influenced by mythology. As the third image, if you can show me the third image. Yeah, the third image is basically like in Ramayana. Like right now, we are living in a Hindu fascist state, but like in this image, I try to reimagine like Surpanakha, who is called the devil woman, the evil woman, as a survivor, and her being friends with Sita, who is supposed to be the good woman, the epitome of what a woman is supposed to be like. So this work also places them in a modern context. So can you scroll through the images? Yeah. So the food images, I'm also like, especially the community spaces, like a lot of the work we do also influence our art, especially like working with Amra Adbhut has really influenced my art in a lot of ways. Like it's also a community kitchen. So if you get closer to like your own food, you realize the politics of it. You realize how casteist and sexist the food that we eat is, and how a lot of food has also emerged from the margins, from like Bengali vegetarian cuisine, for example, has emerged from Bengali widows who were literally not allowed to eat meat or eat anything else. They were just allowed to eat scraps. So they made a cuisine out of scraps. So the politics of all of this is very interesting, especially like when you're building a queer space, is because I feel like there are also solidarities happening. Solidarities happening between queer movements and feminist movements, solidarities happening between the caste movement and like the intersectional movement of the caste and queer movement. So, and so we basically like, can you scroll through the images, Lizzie? Yeah. So this, can you scroll through the image where this person and the gramophone is coming out of them? Yeah. So basically through Amra Adbhut, for the past 1 year, we have been working on a project called Imagining Utopias. So Imagining Utopias for us was trying to fill in the gaps that have been created in our cultural consciousness. So if you look at queer artists, if you basically look at our queer histories, you will find that there is almost no record of us, especially with people of color, because we have been colonized, our history has been taken from us. So what do we do in that case? So we fill in these gaps with our imaginations. So, and also, how do we imagine a future which is a future which takes in all, like celebrates our differences, a future which is beautiful, a future which can curb climate change, a future which can heal the planet as queer people. So we have also, so what we have been doing is like, so the purpose of this seminar is transnationalism, right? And how we can learn from each other. So I feel that as people of color in various countries, we have a lot to learn from each other. Whenever conversations happen, they often happen from between people in the West, and like, you know, there's always like this dichotomy which exists. But instead, why can't we just have conversations between like countries where people of color live, and also the diaspora? So in that, so we have been doing these Imagining Utopias workshops with people of color all over the world, where folks imagine their past and try to reimagine their past, and we have these conversations about what our ancestors might have looked like, how they might have found love. Livy, could you show the PDF? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot of time. So how they might have found love, how they might have found community. So these are the questions we are trying to address through this project, where we are filling in these owning our own stories. So, and even about the futures, like I feel like personally, like science fiction holds a place in my heart because it gives space for queer people to imagine a world where we thrive, a world where our sadness and our misery is not the only narrative that exists. And can you also scroll down? Yeah, narrative that exists. So we have been working on, Falak I think is here, Falak and Upasna and me have been working on this project, and so far we have done these workshops with over 60 people throughout the world. And every time we do these workshops, like what we realize is that there is also so much healing in imagining our past and imagining our futures. There's healing in realizing that there might be possibilities of something beautiful. So I feel that this entire event is about possibilities, and I'm going to end what I'm saying by celebrating these possibilities, celebrating possibilities of utopias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nandini. That was such an incredible presentation and really enlightening.
Thanks. Also, I don't know if you saw the comments, but people are really, really inspired, really emotional. This has brought like so much, you know, at the same time, pain, but also joy and hope. You know, what you ended on with possibilities, I think really touched everybody here. And you're right, this is what this event is about. I'd really like to invite Anthem again, because Anthem also does a lot of work around possibilities. And so Anthem, if your audio is working now, do you want to go ahead and open up your mic and your camera and present for us? For people who weren't here before, Anthem is a spoken word artist, an activist, a community leader, a poet, actor. He's co-founder of Sana Center, which is in Mathare. It's a safe space for creatives. And Mathare is the second biggest informal settlement of Nairobi in Kenya. Go ahead, Anthem, let's see if we can hear you. No. We're not hearing you. No, now we cannot hear you. You're hearing us fine though, right? We'll just give Anthem a few more moments because we did hear him before when we tested it. So I want to make sure to give him the possibility to fix the audio. Thank you for your
Anthem, can you speak for us?
Anthem, maybe if you're able to switch devices, we can have Elsie. Oh, you're trying headphones. Do you want to try again? Oh, we can't hear you. What we can do is we can have Elsie present, and if you're able to switch devices in that time, and then when you're able to switch, we can get back to you. How about that? Does that sound okay? All right, I'll talk to him through WhatsApp.
Okay, sweet. So all good, we're still moving. So following that, I'm really excited to introduce Elsie Ayotunde Cullen, who's also a great friend of mine and a fellow babes. Elsie is an ICU nurse who's completing a master's in health and international development. With over 10 years in the creative industries, Elsie's career has spanned across various disciplines from dance to fine art, to music and is now resting in content creation. So looking forward to hearing from you, Elsie.
Hey everyone. Hi, hope you're well. So awkward talking to people muted. But yeah, as Nikita said, I'm an intensive care nurse. I'm also doing my master's in as Nikita said, in health and international development. And I've been doing art as well, I think from as long as I could remember, and really taking it seriously since 2014. For me, I think this topic, this conversation, this idea of artivism, I think is one that holds very close to me. In terms of personal experience, a lot of the work that I do now is around community, but more recently around trauma-based work, and work that follows the lives of people who experience trauma, whether it's mainly sexual trauma, but then also like in terms of the community. I do come from a Nigerian background, and so I'm also very passionate about my community and the traumas that we faced collectively, like from the Black, from the community. And so a lot of the work that I do is to try to like educate people, inform people, but also represent our voices, whether it's representing survivors' voices or representing Black voices, representing just the things that that help us to visualize ourselves more, and for us to understand and see ourselves a bit more. In terms of my presentation, it's a bit all over the place, guys. I'm so sorry. But I'll just take you on a small introduction through my work, if you just give me a second. Let me just share my screen. Is it sharing? It's sharing, awesome. Okay, so in terms of my work that I'm doing now, so a lot of the work, so prior to me becoming like, in terms of using my art for active activism, I started off as an illustrator, and a lot of the work that I was doing was mainly around representation and looking at the body. Again, I had a very because I got introduced to the concept, I got introduced to the world of trauma from a very young age, in terms of like sexual abuse. And from there, I think what happens to a lot of survivors is the relationship that we have with our body, it changes. And there's this idea of self-sexualization, and also matched with a lack of self-worth and stuff like that. So when I started doing artwork in college, in secondary school, a lot of the work that I was doing was looking at my body, looking at the female body, and ways that it can be made sacred, and looking at that and how can I portray myself in a way that it boosts my self-esteem and boosts my sense of self-worth, but then also kind of like allows me to be feminine, allows me to be sexual, allows me to be divine, you know, that kind of like sense of like reclaiming my worth and reclaiming my body. So these are some photos that I took in 2013 during my first art classes. So this is my little, I'm all organized kind of. And then from there, I think I kind of, again, continue to like delve into the topic of spirituality, because in terms of my recovery journey, spirituality was a massive thing for me. Finding a deeper sense of worth, finding something that was ethereal. So I think, again, with people that experience trauma, there is this sense of leaving your body to a certain extent, and not feeling placed within your body. So spirituality for me was especially important in terms of connecting to the outside world, but also connecting deeply to myself. And when we talk about art isn't only visual arts, and I think there's a range of ways that art can be expressed. So we have the visual arts, we have the written arts, we have the performance arts. I'm really grateful to say that I've kind of tried all types of art, but for me, written art and visual arts were my my main thing. So here I'm just exploring spirituality and like what it means to be in myself, and to feel myself, and stuff like that. And then from there, 2015, again, I'm still expressing myself, still finding my language, but still trying to express or find sacredness within my body. and find a sense of like just beauty within my body. So he can see all I have is the feeling of my inward outward breath, like trying to really center myself and look at well-being as a form of activism. Because I think for anyone, there's a quote that I think I've kind of begun to develop for myself, saying that art is the safest way for us to unpack very unsafe topics. And I think it's so important for anyone that is engaged in any sort of activism to use their art or to use alternative languages as a way for them to express themselves. So again, here, looking at the female body and how we can how I wanted to feel liberated within my body, feel liberated within sexuality, but still reclaim myself and still have a sense of ownership over myself. What else? 2016, 17, yeah. And then 2018, I kind of said to myself that instead of looking at the body in very sexualized ways, I wanted to find a way to show myself in a way that was not sexual, but still present, if that makes sense. Give me a second, let me just find where this is. Sorry guys for this. I feel very embarrassed. Okay, it's not coming up. But in terms of then, so I'm looking at how I can represent females and represent the female body, and especially Black bodies, in a way that kind of liberates us. So since this year, I've kind of looked at, I'm starting this project called 365 Days of Black Beauty. And so again, I'm kind of looking at how we can represent ourselves and represent women in ways that empower us, especially from the Black community. Because I feel like representation is a massive thing, and it's important that we see ourselves, and we see ourselves in a diverse range of ways. So here is a project that I'm currently working on, like I said, 365 Days of Black Beauty. And it's just highlighting all the different women in my life that I'm around, and the work that they do. So seeing us as artists, seeing us as students, seeing us as mothers, seeing us as therapists, seeing us as beauty pageant queens. Because I feel like in the media, there isn't enough representation of diverse Blackness. In films and TV programs, it's either the angry Black girl or it's the girl in the music videos who's not debasing herself, but who's kind of like, who's been objectified in a sense. Like, it's always from this outside lens of people, how people projecting their own ideas onto us. Whereas I wanted to look at ways that we could tell our own stories and represent ourselves and be seen in the ways that are meaningful to us. And then since this year, I've also now been looking at ways that I can use education to kind of push forward like this sense of activism. And so this is a current project that I'm working on now with my organization, Our Social Therapy. And again, it's looking at ways that we can empower people through knowledge and empower people through words and through allowing people to be able to explain and express their experiences. So I feel like that's what art is about. Art is about your ability to express yourself in ways that sometimes traditional methods can't. And so I've been reading this book called The Body Keeps the Score. And again, looking at like making things accessible. For me, I found that sometimes reading isn't always accessible to people who don't have the energy or don't have the attention span to just get into books. So it's about how can we make things accessible, and I find art to be really accessible. So here's just some of the stuff that I've been doing now in terms of like using my art to push accessibility and push representation of different stories. And so I've been doing like lots of like little infographics, like little cute kind of infographics that kind of like explain to people, for example, this topic about why words fail us, and the ways that trauma can actually impact the survivor's brain to be able to communicate the stuff that they go through. And again, like why survivors stay, looking at how we can like visually represent stuff in ways that allow people to take in information, but in like small bite-sized sizes. Because I think with social media, we've kind of accustomed ourselves to taking things into very small chunks. So again, using social media to kind of like communicate and share that information. And And again, I think for me, again, it's like working with the children as well, like working with the next generation. How can we use our art to communicate things of lasting measure? So this was a project that I did during the lockdown, which was called the Culture Club, with some young people online. And it was just focusing on creativity, culture, and development. And so we looked at a book called Does Not Frighten Me at All by Maya Angelou and Basquiat. And it was like a cute little thing, again, like looking at like a bravery bingo, where we said like, oh, who's brave? And they'll say, I'm brave. And then we'll cross off the bingo. Who faces their fears? I face my fears. You know what I mean? Looking at ways that we can make these concepts, these seemingly large, big concepts, accessible to people. So again, like scary word search, like what are people scared of? Like we have sharks here, the dark, etc., etc. For me, I think that what art does, it allows us to immortalize the things that are immortalize moments and people in ways that sometimes can be forgotten in history or can be forgotten in books. And so, yeah, that's kind of the work that I'm doing at the moment, looking at ways that we can immortalize our culture and our history so that people can, from all generations, from all backgrounds, can easily interpret and easily engage with. Yeah, I think I'm kind of done for now. There's other projects that I'm working on. But yeah, I think as the conversation goes forward, we can unpack that more. Hope that was okay, guys. Sorry, I feel like I'm a mess this morning, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.
No, not at all, Elsie. That was great. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing your work and your process and how you've managed to move and evolve since your beginnings, since you started to create.
Yeah, Elsie, no worries at all. We're also going to have more time later to talk more and go deeper into dialogue. So don't worry. I know that 10 minutes can be kind of too condensed with everything that people want to share. I want to check in with Anthem because I know that he switched phones and it might be working now. So let's all give some like energy that Anthem's audio is going to work. Do you want to test it out?
Yeah, can you now hear me?
Yeah, it's quite low, so maybe speak louder and closer to the mic, but sound is coming out.
Okay, nice one, nice one. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Yes, so my name is Anthem Republiq. I'm a spoken word artist, a rapper, and an actor as well. As Chloe stated before, I'm sorry for the delays and this type of, I don't know what's happening with my device, but I'm glad to be back. I hope you can still hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, nice one. So I'll start maybe by giving you the best way, like introducing myself the best way I know using art. And I'll start by a piece called Tembea Ghetto. Tembea Ghetto basically means like just come and visit ghetto or slum, you know. And I wrote this piece. I was inspired by the great things that are happening in our community, and people don't get to recognize them. They only talk about the positive, the negative side, you know. And this really interferes with our mental health in our community. We don't get the confidence. I believe that no one chooses where to be born, but people are criminalizing this. Like you are being profiled because of where you come from. And I wrote this piece to also encourage them, encourage my fellow ghetto people, and to let the world again know that they matter despite of what, of anything that may happen. And so, welcome. I was born and raised up in ghetto. I spent my childhood years in abject poverty. Bullet for breakfast, lunch unpredictable, maybe supper, take water. What a life. My mama used to hustle every day for my better tomorrow. And she used to say, son, smile today, because tomorrow might be holding sorrows. Tukolabo leo, because kesho kuna mtu anaweza baki solo, so hata ukuwe na shida nyingi aje usiwahi bend solo. Jiamini kabla watu wakuamini, and so at the tender age of 2 years, I could tell the difference between a real bullet and a rubber bullet, and mark you, none of my family is in the army. Situation has recruited us by force. We know no authority. Shoot to kill is the hit song in our ghetto, so mgeni come to sing along. We come utembee kwetu ghetto. Come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa, awe come utembee kwetu ghetto. Come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa. Ukiwa youth na uko ghetto, wanakuita criminal. Wanasema kill them all. We are subjected into degrees of intimidations and violence. We are not independent in our own country. We are like refugees. Jesus on the wapi since every corner ina smell death. Kila mtaro ina flow blood. Ghetto iko pente na zuni hadi naogopa. Naogopa sisi naishi maisha ya saa hii. Anytime unaweza sikia why. Anthem is no more wamemuwai. But we come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa, awe come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa. Hii mtaa pia inaishi Kenyan citizens. Uliza mtuva atakwambia mambo huku ni mseto. Karibu ghetto na kupromise ukikam utatamani kuseto. Pole kaushaika muku akakuhanda boss. Ni vile Rose mwando aishi huku, so wakungekuwa na mtu wa kukubembeleza. Cause kuna wenye wanaongoja tuombe ndio watupe, na wakitupea atupei kwa mkono, labda watupe. So in case nimesahau kukuomba, jua God sijaisahau kumuomba. Sieste tu anabondanga mali, ghetto sisi ubonda sura, na bado mbaby anakuambia you handsome. Napenda hiyo sura, so sura zetu zikiogopesha kiudani trejo. Jueni heart zetu ni safi kaza angels, and when you look down on us, there'll be nothing to smile about. We come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa, awe come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa. Karibu kwa mtaa yenye inaaminekania wezi na kusucceed hatuwezi. Mtaa yenye inaaminekania wezi na kusucceed hatuwezi. Karibu kwa mtaa yenye ukiwa huku watu wa nje wanajua mengi kuhusu ghetto hadi kuliko sisi wenyeji. Atukikuwa na pesa wanasema kuna mtu wa M-Pesa umetesa, ati umebeba pesa ukamwachia tu mayo. Karibu kwa mtaa yenye hewa si breathe yote ni insult, na ukirudi nataka uambie hivi. Waambie apart from sisi kuwa wakora pia tuko na the best footballers wenye wamekaa tu base wakichomoa na sola. The best singers who can sing songs that can swing in your mind to remind you of the positive things that we are capable of doing. Better than most DJs who can scratch your negative attitudes and turn you back to a normal human. Tuko na the best singers design wanaweza, tuko na the best rappers design wakirap. Kanye Western na sound kama Kenya ni from Western. We are diamonds in the dust. Tumechafuka after some people kutuchafua, and we just need someone kutupanguza, because we are ready to shine to this world. We come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa, awe come utembee kwetu ghetto, come utembee kwa mtaa ya mastaa. Anthem Republiq. Yes, Saya. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you so much. That was incredible. Really, really.
I feel like if you could have heard people participating, everyone would be making noises and clapping. So The people are responding on the chat saying that it was incredible, that they felt the energy, amazing, you're a star. So, the love from people here.
Thank you so much. That's a piece, basically talks about, discrimination, how people are viewing people from the slum. They only see the negative side, they profile us as criminals, as people who are drug addicts, but yeah, that is just to remind them of the other positive things that we are capable of doing, and they are not talking about them. The great talents people have, people are also educated, and this is also making people be afraid of introducing themselves to, like, from where they come from, and they are also denied opportunities because of their background. I believe that no one chose where to be born. If we were to choose where to be born, then I don't think maybe Islam wouldn't have been in existence, But personally, I don't regret to be born here. I'm very proud, and I call it a university, where you get to learn so many things, though the hard way. But yeah. Anyway, I use my art to amplify different issues, that are happening in our society. Right now, we are facing a big giant called extrajudicial killing. If you are a youth, that is the way to go. You are a candidate of extrajudicial killing, and no one will talk about it because they all know that people who come from the slums are all criminals. And I usually, like, last week I buried my friend, like he was my neighbor, a close friend to me. He was taken out of from his house, I think around 8 a.m., no, 8 p.m. I think, by police who are wearing civilians, and he was shot to death, and no one complained, no one talked about it because they all know that people from the slums are criminals. This was a fellow artist. He was an actor. In fact, we were planning to do a movie with him, and he was like, yo, guys, we need to plan it. We need to do it, only to wake up and, realize that we have lost him. And this really worries me because, it is not an easy thing to just leave knowing that you are a candidate for extrajudicial killing. And this is making many youths to be bitter because it is also motivating other youths to indulge in crime and drugs, because drugs, again, it is the only way to escape the reality. That's how they know. So that stuff is really killing so many dreams, so many leaders who I think they have potential. They had the potential to change the world and from the community. But all in all, we got to live. There is hope for a better tomorrow. And therefore, we are trying to use art to advocate for these issues. And my friend Miko Migra, shout out to you, Miko Migra. He's a brother, a friend, and we've been facing the same challenges with him. And we decided not to be part of those people that are complaining, about the opportunities that are not there, or how the government is not doing to us, or whatever the community is viewing us. So we decided to do something for the community. And that's how we came up with an idea of Sanaa Center, because again, art was the only way. Art is the only thing that we have, and that is the only language we know. And despite of the challenges of, you know, registering an organization, but we had to pull up our socks and we gathered the few resources that we had, and we came up with Sana Center. Sana Center is a safe and organizing space for creatives based at Madare. So we create platforms, and we also try to we unite artists, you know, from all walks of Madare and other slums to come and talk about these issues and see and come up with ways on how we can make our community better. And so far, it is not that old, by the way. We just launched it last month, last month, 1st November. Is it not? Yeah, exactly. And there was a great turn up. I mean, we had over 70 artists who are longing for one platform, and we could not even accommodate everyone. But it also gave us hope and confidence that whatever we are doing is great, and there is a need for that space because people don't have somewhere to talk about these issues. And by the way, issues like extrajudicial killings, people have normalized them, you know? So we can talk about someone who was shot yesterday, like, yeah, by the way, do you know so-and-so was shot yesterday? And they're like, oh, man, that's not a good thing. But anyway, did you watch the game yesterday about so-and-so? I mean, yeah, that's how crazy it is. It is normal now. But anyway, as I said before, there is hope. And we are here to use our art and power, and again, also change our mentality on how we view things, and again, try to amplify those issues that are happening in our communities and the potential that the community is having. We have so many talented guys in there. Sana Center now, we have over 100 artists who have registered, and they are doing different stuff. We have photography, filmmakers, we have rappers, spoken word. I mean, so many artists, and maybe we can have autograph, maybe post one of our of our movie or a documentary that we've also done, just to show that the positive side of where we come from.
Thank you so much, Anthem. Thank you for that. And I feel like that connects really well with what Elsie and Nandini also shared, that despite each of you having very specific, local context that you're living in and working with, you're all using different forms of art as a necessary language to express that, and not only point out the injustices, but also recreate, right, and reimagine possibilities, to borrow Nandini's words. So thank you so much. And I'm really excited for the next part of today, which will be a more interactive conversation between the three of you. So we're gonna just take a little 3-minute break for people to, take it all in, and then come back in 3 minutes so that we can really get into this dialogue and this connection. So people haven't really been asking that many questions. So I just wanna, push you guys a little bit more to ask some questions. If not, it's okay. The artists can ask each other questions, and we'll have a great dialogue. But if anything comes up now that you want to post in the chat, we can center that in the conversation. So we'll see you in 3 minutes. All right. Bye.
I love that little round of applause for you, Claire and Nikita there, bringing you back in.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you took a moment to like breathe, digest everything, have some time and space for yourself. So before we go into this section, which is more of a Q&A, so an opportunity for the artists to talk between themselves and for you to share your questions and also share your reactions, we just wanted to highlight that we'll be sharing a Google form for people interested in staying in touch, as we'll be holding a second event next week, Saturday, for people who kind of want to deepen this conversation, because we only have half an hour left, which doesn't leave us as much time as we would like. And so this second event is called the Kitchen Tables Talk, and it'll be an informal gathering for people engaged in different art practices and all social and environment justice work, or people who just want to be part of a community that's asking these questions. It'll be a different setup to the one we're having today, so it'll be an opportunity for everyone to share their screens, and in that way we can introduce ourselves to each other and put faces to all the names that are popping up in the chat. We can share experiences and reflect about what transnational solidarity can look like. And also, before we get into the Q&A, I just wanted to bring up some themes that have already started to come up between the artists. One of them, for example, is the fact, like a desire to depict something other than struggle, to show and demonstrate joy and thriving in communities that face several forms of injustices. Something that really struck me with Anthem's presentation was when he spoke about things becoming normal. And that really speaks to the question that centers this event. It's a line by the poet Warsan Shire, who writes, "Does your blood not move?" And she writes that this is a question that Somalis ask themselves when confronted with injustice. And it feels like an urgent call to not accept the different harms and different violences we see as just part of our daily lives. I suppose it's a reminder that to remain unmoved in the face of global and interlinking injustices is neither possible or acceptable. So this question really forms our thinking behind the event and the questions we hope we can pose to each other. So I'll leave it to Chloe, pass it on to Chloe to lead the facilitation.
Thank you. We have a few questions that have come up, and I invite people to keep asking away as you get inspired. But I wanted to start us off with a question that has kind of been guiding our event throughout today. And I know that the presentations focused more on each artist's individual kind of local context and work that they do. But I want to ask you all, how do you see, a connection like this, and more broadly, transnational connections and transnational solidarity as really strengthening your own local and grassroots actions? So I'll open up with that, and then we'll get into other specific questions shared by people. So this is free, so whoever wants to start can just go ahead and speak, and we can trade off. Yeah.
For me, I think with regards to like transnational solidarity, could you just repeat the question? Because I just one more time.
Of course, and I can also write it too. But basically, how do you see transnational solidarity and connections strengthen local grassroots action?
Yeah, for me, I think the transnational solidarity is super important. Because I think I do feel very privileged to have grown up in the UK, and I know that as a descendant of like a first-gen migrant, like I just know, like with my mum being so close to being deported back to Nigeria, like how close it was for me to have either been brought up in Nigeria or brought up in the UK, and just the difference that's made in terms of my life, if that makes sense. And so for those reasons, I've always had, I think, a strong affinity with like the global South. I spent 5 months in India, and from there, like I even saw like in rural settings and rural towns, like how much they were struggling with stuff like healthcare providers, and just stuff like that, like all the different challenges that exacerbated when living in the global South, in terms of like state providence, stuff like that. So I think when you look at it in contrast to the privilege that we benefit from, I guess, for me, it's just about how can we, like, how can what how can the privileges that I have, that makes sense, benefit those on the continent? And I think vice versa as well. I think especially with social media use and like the way that it's kind of like very much sped up globalization, in the sense that we're all able to share in each other's like pain and glory from people all around the world, like exemplified by the Black Lives Matter movement. Something that happened in America was able to spark protests in the UK, if that makes sense. And so I think the thing is that with all over the world, I think a lot of us have similar experiences and the same experiences. And I just think that by lending our voice to those around the world, it's that solidarity. It's that saying, I see you. Do you know what I mean? There's someone, no matter where you are, there's someone across the world that is rooting for you, that's supporting you, that's action in the change that they can in to try and help you. Because I really believe that when one person stands up, everyone stands up, and if one person falls, everyone falls, if that makes sense. I think internationally we're seeing the importance of grassroots activism as well, because I think the state and the governments they're looking around. I think I think we are the people that will prioritize our interests the best, you know. But I'll let Nandini or whoever or Anthem go.
Can I say something, or if Anthem wants to say, they can? Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things which both Anthem and Elise said resonated a lot, in the sense that Elise was, am I pronouncing the name right? Am I pronouncing your name right? Elsie, sorry, Elsie. Yeah, so Elsie was talking about being a survivor and how building a community where we can support other survivors. So I am a survivor myself, and within like the queer community here, it like the concept or the idea of consent almost does not exist. Like, so we have been having consent workshops with grassroots trans communities here. So the power to even say that I have the power to say no is such an alien concept. So I feel like the work that you're doing, Elsie, is so brilliant, and it's so inspiring, because I feel like even when it comes to activism, in a lot of ways, especially queer activism, we have learned it from queer trans, from trans Black women, Black trans women, and that is where queer activism basically comes from. So there is so much to learn, and obviously like the LGBTQ movement has been whitewashed so much that the objective has always almost like focused on like marriage and other things which do not make a lot of sense in our context. So I feel like, you know, we need to really learn from, there's so much to learn from like activism which happens in the US, Black Lives Matter, or yeah. So, and that has really influenced us in a lot of ways. And also with Anthem, I feel like I can totally see them performing in like our space in Kolkata. And I can see a lot of our folks, our people like being moved by them, being able to resonate and being able to like really relate to what they were saying. The idea of being criminalized as trans people, like we walking in public can be a difficult thing to do. Going to a restaurant in public can be a difficult thing to do. So that kind of like criminalization exists, and I feel like it would really, I feel like these connections really need to happen, and there is so much to learn from activists from all around the world. Although what happens is that especially with Black trans activists, then their work is often erased, although like these white gay men are reaping the privileges of the work of Black trans women, but their names are often erased in history. This is also about erasure and how people of color are often erased, and how their contribution is erased. Even here, if you look at the LGBTQ movement in Kolkata, it was started by trans women sex workers, trans women sex workers, but that is never even spoken about. So if you Google Indian LGBTQ activists, you will only find a bunch of Savarna gay men. No one speaks about the trans women sex workers who started it. So yeah.
Anthem, do you want to add to the question? Do you want me to repeat? Are you good?
It's okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, nice one, nice one. First of all is to thank you for this great opportunity that you've granted me to be part of this amazing conversation. I'm liking it, and this is the best thing. I mean, I don't know, you are really doing great. This is the best way to go. Nandini and Elsie, great work you're doing there. Oh, I like what you're doing. Keep up the good spirit. Keep up the vibe. Chloe and Nikita, oh my God. Oh my God. This is the way to go. Yeah? And I thank Autograph for, you know, being allowing to be this conversation to be like, you know, to be part of this conversation, because I think this is what we are lacking. We need to amplify our our issues, and not only our issues, even the great talents like Nandini and Elsie have, you know. We need to see them in Madare, Kenya. We need them. We need to see these great pictures on our exhibitions and stuff like that. And you are God sent. That is what all. That is the only thing I will say. That you are God sent, and whatever you are doing, if you needed a surety, let me tell you now that go ahead, and you have my full support in whatever way that I can. For real, let us take let us take art to the international level. Let us make world a better place. Yeah.
And I'm going to go through a few questions that were shared in the chat. And there are some that are specific to people and some that are broader. So I'll start with a broader one for now. And this one is, what might a form of decolonial aesthetics look like? How does one challenge Western ideas of aesthetics within transnational frames?
I think, first of all, I think you made the good point, Chloe and Nikita, about the use of English when it comes to maybe like written works or any kind of like visual work that includes text. A lot of the time, people do just use English because it is the conversation that everyone, or it is the language that everyone is accessible to everyone to a certain extent. When we say everyone, that is inherently exclusive, and I find that even when it comes to maybe like government media, whether it's through like printed posters or leaflets, stuff like that, we don't always take into consideration the fact that local people have local dialects, local slangs, local stuff that they might prefer, if that makes sense. So it's about how can it's about creating stuff that relates to people in the different subgroups, if that makes sense. I think with colonization, it's been this banding together of different cultures, different peoples, different backgrounds under one ruling system. And it's about, no, how can we decentralize information, decentralize work, decentralize our narratives, so that it empowers people to tell their own stories in their own ways, through their own language, through their own mediums, in ways that are spiritual, important, and meaningful to them. So that's my thoughts.
Nandini, you're on mute.
So I think, one second, I'll just look at the question once. Yeah. So, as I was saying, like when we went to art school, it was like basically like trying to draw maps. So it was very, if you look at perspective in terms of art, the three-dimensional perspective is what is taught in art schools, but we have our own idea of perspective. If you look at Indian miniature paintings, it has a very strict perspective, although it is not seen as like scientific or whatever, but the perspective is there. It's a 2D perspective. It's our own idea of how we look at things. So for me, even if you look at the galleries that exhibit work in India, in Kolkata, it's always like very minimal work, which is seen as like sellable, which is seen as work that will get a lot of money. So for me, the decolonization of this aesthetic would be maximalism, the opposite of minimalism, because like in our context, there's so many colors, patterns, and like, so to be able to work with, I'm only talking about visual art because that's what I personally work with. And I also embroider and do like, yeah. So even if you look at embroidery, for example, that was never seen as art because it was seen as women's work. So it's not, so it's not seen as art. So how can we, like, all these things which are not seen as art can be seen as art as well? So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah.
I'm sorry if you guys can hear the storm, but it's raining so much right now. But hopefully you can still hear. Anthem, do you wanna comment a bit about that? About how maybe your work, or what's the importance of kind of challenging Western aesthetic, and how to decolonize aesthetic? Oh, you're on mute. Yeah, it's on mute. Yeah. Cool. We can't hear you. Do you want to try getting closer to your phone? Can anyone else hear Anthem? Nikita, are you hearing him? No? Hey, somehow, somehow, even on the other phone, it's come back. Okay, now you're on mute. Maybe try unmuting again. No, we can't. I'm going to continue to other questions, but then we'll come back to you, and I'm sure it will work again. Yeah? We had a few specific questions for people. Elsie, there's been a lot of interest about the social therapy project that you brought up, and someone has asked if you can speak a little bit more on this. There's also been a question for you about how you balance being an intensive care nurse and all the art and activism you are doing. I also would love to know how you do this. And then Nandini, let's do first Elsie, and then Nandini, I'll ask you specific questions. What's fresh?
So I guess I'll start with the question about from a vet about balancing stuff. I think I just put a note in the chat as well. I mean, I think from as long as I can remember, I've always been active. I think my dad was someone that was very influential in making sure I always had stuff to do. So it was always going out to a museum or to the art or to the Royal Festival Hall, or just always doing stuff. And so I think that's kind of really stayed with me into my adult years. Like, I'm just always doing stuff, always working, always creating. Part of me thinks it might be ADHD, but you know, it's either here or there. But I'm just always active. So I don't really watch like TV programs. I don't really just chill and relax and do nothing. It's not really my thing. But I also understand that that's not a good thing as well. I also need to find the balance between rest and relaxation, because it is important. I also have a social media addiction, so I should probably reduce that. But that's how I balance things. I'm just always active. So even if I'm at work, I'm drawing, or I am on my breaks, I'm drawing, or I'm thinking about stuff. When I get home, I won't sleep. I'll just be doing stuff. So that's kind of like, I just stay active. And I think it's about like that purpose. Like for me, I'm just like, my purpose is always on my mind. I'm always thinking, how can I do something? How can I do something? How can I create something? How can I help? That's what happens in my mind basically on a constant basis. And then with the question about our social therapy, again, it's just like, for me, I think because I was a survivor from primary school, from early primary school, so maybe like 5 or 6 years old. And I've encountered many experiences, maybe like 4 or 5 experiences where I have been sexually abused or sexually exploited. So for me, it's been like I'm 25 now, so it's been like 20 years of really going through all the emotions, you know what I mean? Like self-victimizing, self-blaming, trying to understand it. Is it me? Do you know what I mean? Going through those thoughts. And I think these are thoughts and feelings that a lot of survivors go through. And a lot of feelings that we have, like feelings of not being able to communicate, or feelings of using certain coping mechanisms like self-harm, or minimizing our experiences, or not even seeing what we go through as abuse, if that makes sense. And so for me, I think it's important to help give people a language, or help give people a vocabulary to understand their experiences. And like, there are so many things that I've been through that it's only recently when someone said to me, oh, that sounds like that, I've said, oh my gosh, that's what that is. That, do you know what I mean? Like, language and words, they help open up they help validate your experiences. Words have the power to validate your experiences. And so for me, it's about how can we educate people and empower people with information that are found in books, that is found in therapy, that is found in like social conversations. So the platform is called Our Social Therapy, and it is really about us sharing our experiences, us sharing our stories, us conversating to help share the knowledge that we've learned over the years, but also unpack the things that we feel like we can't tell anyone, that we're kind of like burdened by shame, if that makes sense. So that's the work that I'm doing. We're on social media. I've put the website there, but yeah, that's kind of, I hope that answered the question. I think it did.
Yeah. Thanks. So Nandini, we have a few specific questions for you. Someone asked if you could speak a bit more on how you're using reimagination of the past to decolonize our idea of sexuality and gender. And someone else is asking about your views on letting survivors speak about their lived experience. This is someone who said that they can get really triggered by people who say that their writing is too negative, and that they feel it's important to talk about the trauma. So if you could speak a little bit about that.
Okay, so I'm going to address the second question first. So as a survivor myself, like, I think I have been really, I've been really like scared to go into it in my art. I try to help people work on it through activism, but when it comes to art, I think that is a space I've almost evaded it, and I've been scared to do it. But of course, it is very important to talk about our experiences, to talk about, because it is cathartic. It also makes other survivors feel like they're not alone. And obviously, like, I do not think anyone has a right to say that it's negative, especially if somebody is talking about their own experiences or talking about sexual abuse in their writing, because it is obviously extremely important. But what is important is that maybe like have a content warning that can really help. Like, you know, before, like if you're writing something, have a content warning saying that CW, sexual abuse. So yeah. But other than that, I feel like you need not be apologetic about it at all. You have every right to tell your story, and it is your story. So obviously, and could you repeat the first question again?
Yes, yeah. Of course. The first question was if you could speak more on how you're using reimagination of the past to decolonize our idea of sexuality and gender.
Okay. So if we look at our history, I'm not saying that gender binary, I'm only talking about South Asia because that is what I know about. So if we look at our gender binary, I'm not saying it did not exist, but it did not exist in the way it does right now. It was a lot more fluid. So if you see before colonization, like the hijra community is basically, it's a profession which is practiced by a lot of trans women. where they give blessings in exchange for money, and a lot of trans women were political advisors, were in high stations in the Mughal Empire, and also like you can see instances of gender bending and like non-binary and queer people in both Islamic and Hindu texts. So, uh, so I feel that this entire idea, this entire binary of, even if you look at older films like 1940s, 1950s, Indian films, you will see that the men are very soft, the men are very feminine. But that idea started changing because if you look at our history, like Lord Macaulay, when he first came to India, said that India is a country with masculine women and feminine men. So we need to civilize them. So through this project, I feel like what we are trying to achieve, like a group which is me, Upasna, and Falak, we are trying to achieve is that trying to imagine a history where the gender binary did not exist in the way it does right now. And even in the future, so the past is also the future, and the future, like I feel like a lot of our participants kind of came up with this idea that time is not linear. So even if the way the idea of linear time is colonial, so so to be able to imagine ourselves as fluid. And to give you a few examples, like Babur, for example, in the Mughal Empire had many male lovers, documented male lovers. You have this story where this king went into a river and became a queen and became a woman, and then had a lover, then had a child, would spend 15 days as a man and 15 days as a woman. So these stories exist. We just don't, but these stories have also been erased. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nandini. I just want to make a quick note on time. I know that we're reaching almost the end of our event. We're gonna ask another question and have a bit of a wrap up. So if people need to leave, that's fine. There will be a recording of this on Autograp's website. But if you can stay a little longer, like 10 more minutes, so we can say our final information and words, that would be great. Anthem, there's a specific question for you about how you see spoken word as a tool to denormalize police violence, organizing youth, where you're from. Are you able to respond now? Is your audio working?
You
I can hear you.
okay? Okay. Nice one. So repeat the question again, please.
Yes, of course. And feel free to also reflect on anything else that has been said. Like same with Elsie and Nandini, if you want to ask each other questions or reflect, that's totally fine. But this specific question for you, Anthem, was how you see spoken word as a tool to denormalize police violence and organize youth.
Oh, nice one. Personally, I started all as a rapper, you know, and these platforms, I mean, it is not that easy in my community to just stand like you are a rapper, and no beat is there and you're rapping and people are listening to you. And again, in my community, there is a notion that rappers don't have content. That is how most people usually say. And they're like, we don't get anything. We just hear like, yeah, yo, 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 yeah, 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 and stuffs like that. So they're like, they don't get the message. And I started like doing spoken word now, like, you know, writing, taking them slow. It's like a story. And I believe that Africans, that's a tool we have, you know, way of telling, like storytelling is our thing. And I decided to use that, you know, like take someone, and also humanizing. I think that's the key word, humanizing what you're talking about, something that they can relate with. And the moment I started doing that spoken word, it really connects with people. Every time I'm speaking or I'm doing my spoken word, then someone relates to it. Even if you're not to my country, maybe you've heard of certain thing, maybe it has happened to you. And again, spoken word is also like an easy way. You don't have to go to the studio or wherever. You can just have any crowd and you speak to them. Again, it is spoken word, you know, just combine your words. And again, just choosing words, combining them, and, you know, trying to fix them so that people maybe will, how people can connect them. I don't want to talk so much about like to go much into writing, but again, that is the word. Spoken word in my community is the way to go. And now they're also using reggae, you know, because they believe the likes of Bob Marley, they used reggae for revolution, you know. And now, yeah, spoken word this is the way to go in my community, if I may say that. Yeah, though it has not, people only view it as a thing that people use to complain. I mean, spoken word artists only complain. They only complain. They talk about issues, heavy issues. I mean, not everyone will want to listen to that, you know. But again, now it is how you arrange your words and how you present them again. Yeah, and if I may ask maybe Elsie and Nandini how we can connect and do maybe we can collaborate and amplify these messages to a higher level, maybe with the spoken word and whatever you guys are doing, because you are really amazing. And again, for Elsie, you talked about something to do with mental health. It is really affecting my community. You know, you can imagine like living, knowing that you can die anytime of extrajudicial killings, you know. And again, now we have these young men who are being killed. They are leaving their girlfriends and so on, and now it is interfering their mental health. It is also increasing you know, like me, maybe a young man like me, I know that I will die anytime. So what do? I get a girl, we get babies, and, you know, I leave a plant, a seed, you know. And now again, it's become a problem because the lady doesn't know how to cope up with that. You know, he's a young girl, doesn't know how to feed a baby and stuff like that. So when you talked about mental health, I thought that is the way to go. Maybe, I don't know how we can collaborate with the information you have and the art, then we see how we can collaborate and also inform our community.
Honestly, like, I think there's time, I think probably like after the event is done, we can all speak and like have a little group chat and like plan, but no, like it's so important. And again, like just understanding your nuance and understanding your perspective, and do you know what I mean? And really having these conversations and really opening up what life means to us on personal levels and how things are symbolized. And it's just so important. So I'm down.
Listen, guys, I'm so excited. I'm getting so much energy and like love from this. The point for this event, Chloe can speak to this too, was to foster connection and to bring people from different corners, from different contexts, from different geographies, and see the connections, see the kind of points of disconnects, maybe how we can link ourselves to each other and continue the conversation. And I'm glad that I can see the exchange happening between all three of you, and also with the people who are engaging and writing in the chat. So that brings me so much joy. I just wanted to call out something what Anthem kind of closed with in talking about words. and spoken word in particular. It reminds me of another quote that kind of influenced this, this event. Another one by Lord, in terms of the fact that poetry, and in many ways art, the art that Nandini's creating, Elsie, the poetry, the anthems performing, it gives a name to the ideas which until they're created are nameless and are formless. And Elsie kind of touched on this too, not being able to know what it is you're feeling and experiencing until someone else calls it, names it, writes it, performs it, draws it, illustrates it, etc. This conversation is not long enough, and so I just want to reinforce again that we have an event next week, the Kitchen Table Talks, much more informal. Bring a cup of tea, something stronger if that's your persuasion, Elsie, and come talk with us, continue the conversation. We want to get to know you guys, how we can continue to connect with each other and continue the conversation and be purposeful in our action. We'd like to close with an affirmation set by Elsie, if that's okay with you. And any kind of remaining comments, please feel free to put in the chat. But yeah, Elsie, I'll pass it on to you. And oh, sorry, Chloe, please.
Oh, I can say this after too, but I was just going to say there are a lot of, a few questions that we weren't able to fully get to. And so we're going to keep those in mind for next week to really make sure that we have at least the themes of those questions centered at next week's conversation. And that next week's conversation, our hope is that is just the first one of many. If we want to make it a monthly thing, if we want to make this into a collective, if we want to, you know, find ways, the purpose is to find ways to collaborate and to learn from each other and share. So we welcome everyone. I sent the link just now. It's a Google form. If anyone doesn't want to use the Google form for whatever reason, that's fine. I put my WhatsApp number and my email there. So if you'd rather just send me a message and be like, oh, hey, give me the link for next week, your information that you provide on the form will only be used to give you guys the link for next week and won't be shared with anyone. But I'll let Elsie close us off.
Hey guys, again. So I'll just share my screen because I've got like a digital version. But basically, so again, a massive important factor in my healing journey was my writing. And I used to write a lot of affirmations to myself. Affirmations like, I am strong, I'm lovely, I'm centered, you know. Because I don't know whose question, I think it was Sina's question about like writing negatively. Or writing what people perceive as negatively. And I found out with myself that sometimes I did indulge in writing that was very, very, very visceral and expressive of my pain. And I definitely think that there is a time for that. There is use in that. There is benefit in that, in purging what's on your heart and on your mind. But after a while, I found myself yearning for a change. And that change came through turning my my pain into prayers, and that was like my transition. So if there's something that was painful, that I found painful, was like, how can I turn this into a prayer? So I'm using my words to call in the things that I want for myself. I think there's place for both of them, you know, both your pain and your prayer, and both, do you know what I mean, your purpose. So long story short, I created these affirmation cards with my friend, with my my big sis, to kind of like use art, cultural art. So these cards, so these symbols you can see on the screen, they come from the traditional Ghanaian culture, and they're called Adink Symbols. And there's like over 100 symbols that each represent different things in the community and the culture. And so with each symbol, they have their own meaning. I'll just show you briefly here. And it's just like pairing up affirmations with those different images. And so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do like a little reading. So I'll let Nandini, anyone from the panelist team, I wish that everyone could unmute themselves, but anyone who can unmute themselves, just tell me when to stop. I'm going to press play and then just tell me when to stop. And then we'll stop on the cards. So.
Stop.
So this card, I'll bring it up. This card is Mewarewo. And it says, I am able to, so wait, let me find the actual illustration. But yeah, so we can all read the affirmation together. If anyone wants to read the affirmation together. It says, I am able to commit
Right.
to the path divinely laid out for me,
Laid out for me.
determined
Determined to preserve, persevere.
yeah. So yeah, this affirmation is called, the symbol is called Mewarewo, and it's about marriage, commitment, and stuff like that. So tell me when to stop again.
Stop.
So this, I wish I could, where did the thing go? I'm sorry guys, I feel like I'm unorganized again.
No, you're good, you're fine.
Where is it? Sorry guys, I apologize a lot as well. I need to get over. Don't apologize for anything, guys. Live your life, live your truth. I'm joking. I'm not joking. Where is it? PDF friends. So this one is okay. Yeah, this one is, so it's this one. God never dies, therefore I cannot die. This is the symbol for it. And the affirmation is here. I am a spirit formed in the image and likeness of God. Even if my body and the whole earth fails,
my
soul will remain. And for me, this is really about like the fact that the work that we do here, the expression that we leave here, you know, it's not in vain. So this is especially for Anthem as well. Like the power, the voice that we use, the work that we do here is not necessarily for us. It's not only for us, it's for generations to come. And when we speak out, we leave this trail and this trace of work that will continue to benefit and empower people so that we never die, but our essence and our purpose lives on through others. And we can do one more. Should we do one more? Whoever, let's start again and do, or we could do as many as you want. You guys tell me to stop because I can do this forever. So
do one more is good. Stop.
And this card is, I believe, is Osramne and Surama, I believe. But so this symbol is the moon. Yeah, Osramne and Surama, the moon and the star, and it's about love, faithfulness, and harmony. And again, especially as a survivor, this affirmation is really important for me. In terms of finding the light within you. And the affirmation says, I am a glowing vessel filled with the divine light
of a faithful love.
I radiate harmony. Yeah, so for me, this is important, especially for anyone that is engaged in activism or artivism. And like letting that light inside you shine, you know, because when activism is a treacherous road. You know what I mean? Standing up for something can be treacherous, and so many times you will feel the world like try to like cover your light and and bring you down, and do you know what I mean? And I think the activists' greatest purpose and work is to keep that light inside of them shining and burning. So I pray that all of us that are involved in activism in any way, shape, or form, that we continue to feel and shine the light within us, so that we can work towards collective harmony. Amen.
Thank you so much, Elsie. Wow, that was like a really incredible way to close this. Also, I feel like I've just been injected with all of this love and strength all of a sudden that I'm getting from everyone here. It has been 15 minutes past the time. I'm gonna close by thanking people, but I wanted to invite Nandini, Anthem, and Elsie if you had any final words you wanted to say. And again, we want to continue staying connected, so please fill out the form if you want to participate next week, and also if you want to share each other's contact info here, we can, you know, I put my WhatsApp and my email, we can stay connected, and whoever feels okay to share can share as well. But I'll let maybe Nandini, Anthem, and Elsie say some final words before we close and say goodbye for today.
Thank you, Elsie, for that. And I absolutely love those cards. Those are so gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say, like, I feel so grateful. I'm so like just blessed to be able to like even be on this platform and to be able to share with you guys genuinely. Like, I think there are so many young people that are just doing such amazing work, and to be amongst you guys is just like a complete honor, especially those in the attendees as well, in the audience, because I know that there's probably like dope people here in the audience that do amazing work. So just for everyone, I'm just feel so grateful. So thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, oh my God, it's so weird that I'm always starting with, can you hear me? But anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Elsie, Nandini, it was great, like, you know, talking to you and listening to the amazing work that you've been doing, and also maybe viewing. So maybe we can, I don't know how, maybe we can link up with you also, maybe after this. And also for Nikita and Chloe, oh my God, that is my comment. Keep on doing the good work, and please feel free to like engage me in the next meeting. I feel so honored to be part of this. And autograph again, big up yourself. Oh, Livy, we forgot you. Oh my God, keep on doing the great work, and looking forward to working with all of you guys. Kwaherini.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Livy,
Thank you, Livy, so much.
No,
thank you, Livy, for like putting up with my bad technology skills.
Right, I'm gonna close this once and for all now. Thank you everyone so much. I knew as soon as you started talking, there was so much to listen and learn from each other. I knew instantly we were gonna run over with it. So it's been really brilliant. Thank you. And yeah, we'll look to get this conversation online as soon as possible. Please do, as Chloe says, sign up for the next session next week. That won't be hosted through this platform, so you'll need to complete the Google form in order to get information about that. Okay, thanks everyone. Goodbye.
Sí.